Okay, so over in the spray booth, basically what we're going to do is the proper coat on this. So what we got down on here is XF85. Now the great thing with this is it's got a bluey, greeny hint to it anyway. It's very similar to sort of NATO black, but it hasn't got as much green in it. So it's really nice and actually going to be our base colour for this. And then we're going to come in with a little bit of royal blue. Now royal blue obviously is very dark, but also it's a gloss. So we're matching or bringing together really flat and a gloss. And that way it will break it up just a little bit. So to start with, we're going to put a proper coat of this down. So this wants to be quite as a wet coat, so to speak, in the great scheme of it. So this has already got thinners in here. I've already tipped in, and it's probably around about 60% thinners to paint on this one. So it's going to be quite a nice little wet coat. And we're really going to put a proper coat of paint on this time. So we're just going to going in quite nice and close, and we properly want to paint it. So this time it's not just a case of spraying it over for effect. This is the real deal now. So we're just going to be a little bit more careful, a little bit more controlled, and certainly a slightly thicker, wetter coat than we did the first time round. Okay. Just under these skid legs, on the bottoms of these feet. Okay. And then generally, we're just going to go in here. So this coat will look slightly more glossy, or much more of a satin finish perhaps than the first one. And making sure everywhere is particularly well covered. Okay, right the way around the entire model from all the angles. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Just spinning round. Okay. And again, we're just looking out for various things, as in any imperfections, fingerprints, all those types of things. And then obviously coming in from all the different angles with the gear and all stuff like that. Okay. And there we go, that's done, which is about right. So now what we're going to do, we're going to come in, going to reload, not tons of it, literally just probably about there. We've probably got about 500,000 in there. And then we're just going to grab some royal blue. Okay, so we've just got some royal blue and probably just a brush full, and we're just going to mix it in. Okay, so that's gone in there and it's mixed in very nicely. Okay, so now we're going to end up with more of a bluey than black, but we need thinners. So again, self-leveling thinners or lacquer thinners, and it's probably going to be more like a 75, maybe 80% thinner mix, and it's going to be very, very thin. Okay, and this is just a way of breaking things up, and it looks quite bluey even in here. So what we're going to do is just blow through till we get the blue coming through. It looks very wet, so we can turn our air pressure right the way down. Okay, and then being careful where we grab. This is obviously wet on this side, so we'll just flip it around to the side we did a little bit after. Now it's still wet here and there, and what we're going to do is just going to pop in, and we're going to do sort of centres of panels, which I know is very difficult on this type of aircraft. Okay, so we're just doing the centres in between the riveting, and what we're trying to do is just break things up just a little bit, and obviously because of the shape of it, we can do that sort of rounded effect, so the sort of striping, so you sort of get that warm look. Okay, so this is just to help break it up, but also it's going to have a little bit more shine to it than perhaps the original paint work. Oh, we definitely didn't want that to happen. That's because I get carried away and don't put a colour cap on it. So as always with this, I'm just going to grab a little bit of this. Okay, it's got a run underneath. We're just going to dab, and it won't affect too much because it's a nice one colour. So we're just going to dab to pick up the excess. Don't rub, just dab all over. Once we've got it, we're going to clean the underside of the airbrush. Always a good example of doing as I do, not as I say on this. Putting the colour cut lid on now, and then what we're going to do is just gently air. So we've just got air, just turn around, dry this to back just a little bit. Doesn't have to be totally dry, okay, and as you can see it's drying in, so now we can just spray. And we're going to recover this entire area and blend in. And we're going to go a little bit further than we had before. Okay, and then it's the same at these back areas, all the others, and we're just going to let that dry, and then again under here, checking the skids are all good, and we're happy. Okay, and then just up here on the rotor head, this area around in here. So squiggles and lumps and bumps all over it. Okay, just this area down in here. Okay, and just to blend through, we're just going to do a light dusty coat over the entire model. Just like that. Now at the same time we've also done the rocket pods and the various things, so they're just going to get a light dusty coat with this. To be honest, we've also done the rotor head as well. We've got it down in here. If you wanted to, you can just come along, and this is continuity. It's just so everything is the same colour right the way through. Okay, so that's literally it, just like that. Happy with that. So what we're going to do, let that dry down, have a look at it. We're going to do a little bit of post work with this one, just a little bit more shading. We're going to change the colour up again, okay, just to lighten up some centres of areas, things like that. So cleaning out the airbrush, we're done with that colour, happy with that colour. And I'd say a little bit of post shading just around this thing, just to break it up a bit so it doesn't look too dark. We want to start lightening it if we can before we get in there properly with the weathering. Okay, so we have one black little bird looking good. Again, there's that problem. No problem, taken care of. Okay, so what we want to do is just break it all up a little bit. So we're going to come back with the MRP. This is the Hilo Drab 174. This is purely to mix things up. We've still got a little bit of black in there. So what we're going to do is add this to black paint. So all we're doing is just need a tiny little bit. We are going to pop the top on this so we don't spill it. Okay, so what we've actually got in here is a very thin, so we've put thinners in as well, mix of Tamiya's obviously XF85 black. Okay, we've got a bit of that blue in there as well, and we've got this olive drab colour, Hilo, blacky, whatever it is. So now this has got like a brown hue to it, which hopefully will put us on the right side of the colour we're looking for. Okay, again, it's very, very thin this. So what we're going to do is up the air pressure a little bit, but we're going to do minimum pull trigger. So when we're doing this, it's just going to be very, very faint as we put this down. So same thing again, we're going to be working in the vertical and then just working around. So angle it so you can see some shine. Okay, and then we're just going to work in amongst detail. So we've got covers, they can have a little bit. We've got some squares, some various things. So we're thinking Tetris shapes. To be honest, air pressure's creeping up on me just a little bit there. We're just going to knock that back a little bit. Okay. Okay, so anywhere that's got joins, you've got a little bit of riveting. Just following the riveting detail on there. So it sort of fades in, and then hopefully we'll look the part still. So it's almost like post shading on the panels. We've got these strengthener panels just down in here. We've got the upper parts, the strengthener plates down on the side here. Okay, and then areas where there isn't any, just, well, wing it. So it's patchy, spotty. Okay, if you haven't got anything, a reference to go off of, that's what we're going to do. And hopefully you can see that now. It's starting to change the colour and it's starting to modulate just a little bit. So in here we're just following the panel lines. Okay, some areas when I haven't got anything particularly to work with, I'm just going to wing it. Okay. And that is it. And then hopefully you can see now we're breaking this all up. So the centres of the panel in this one and in this one, and then on here we're just going to do some various things, and it's just a case of breaking it all up. So now we're just going to follow on those ones we put in there before, and then hopefully you can see now it's got that nice tarnished look to it, and that's what we're trying to achieve here. Okay, so what we're going to do, just going to come up. And it's, you know, like a marbling effect or something. So if you've got nothing to work off of, no reference of where the weathering should be, that's what I would do. Okay, so again, we're just going to pick out that riveting detail. And again, we're just going to put some, although this is going to unmask the canopy, we're just looking to put some of these in, and then again down in here. So following the panel lines, following riveting, we're looking at hatches, in grooves. Okay, and then again. Again, it's just trying to carry the squiggles and patterns. All over it, okay? Again, it's just trying to break things up and mottle and distress. Okay. And again, this is just going to work in, but hopefully you can see now just the differences in the colours and really what we're trying to achieve with this. Okay. Actually, not looking too bad at all. Some stuff on the skids. On the back of the skids. All around, okay, and that has, hopefully you can see now, nice three-dimensional paintwork into it. Okay, and then when we come in with sanding techniques and various things we want to do to it, it should enable it to come in quite well. So we've got the rocket pods here. So lots of vertically things. Just to keep everything on the same page as in colour. Okay, now the guns we've done already silver, and because we've got a very nice light coat here, okay, we're just going to very quickly blast these over just to make them look more gun-like. Okay, so these are the mini guns we worked on, so they just had a coat of silver. They're going to have a wash as well, but just for the minute we're just trying to keep everything for first stage of weathering and things like that. A big gal here at 50 cal, that can go in. And then again, same with the rotor head, okay, because again everything is going to be a very similar colour. So we're just trying to, not going to spray, but we're just trying to break up. Again, it's just a way. You might notice we've actually put the dome on the top and everything else, just trying to go in, but again we're just trying to break things up and make everything look very natural. Okay, so there we go, that's actually looking pretty good. Happy of how that is. Obviously we might just want to add a few more little various things and stains and runs and all of that. But again, the more you put down, the more you're going to lose that original colour. So just be mindful of that. Okay, because we're trying to retain that original colour if we can, don't forget. We don't want to totally obliterate it. But this is a lot more shiny. It's a lot nicer colour. And hopefully it'll give us a very nice effect of what we're trying to get. So we're just going to spray the sides so everything is in keeping. Okay, so very happy about that one. I'm going to stop right there because I think I'm overdoing it. Let that dry for about half an hour and then we can see what we got. Okay, so we've been cracking on down here very nicely, as you can see. So to make it easier, we've put on all the aerials after the primary painting. So the primary painting is done and we've put these on. So we've got these different HF, VHF, long wave, short wave, every wave you can imagine, aerials that sort of special forces birds tend to carry for all their communications. So what we can actually do now is just do a little bit of tidy up. So my main one is this one along here. You can see I am not happy with how that turns out, so we're going to do a little bit of cleaning work there. Okay, but the rest of it actually is all pretty good, no problems at all. We have got some clear parts to still go on a little bit afterwards, but for the moment we're just going to call it quits just down in here. So what we can actually do now is come along and respray these black. Okay, if you wanted to, you could just use a flat black. Chances are I'm just going to use a rubber black. And use this different colour of black as well, just to pop round and break things up again. Again, this is black, but it's not. We've got different shades, hues, and various things going on in here. So the more you can put down, the more it's going to look a little bit more convincing. And as for this little guy just round in here, you've got a couple of options. You can either just turn it into a proper panel line and clean it out a bit, which may be the option I'm going to do, or we could actually come in with a little bit of filler, resand that down, try and blend it in a little bit more, or even if you wanted to, which would probably be my more preferred way, shall we say, is to use something like a plastic putty. We've got this one just down in here, and to be honest, it's not the cleanest and unmessiest way of doing things. So I'm just going to grab a little dish just here. Okay, so this is drying out on me, but it's technically a perfect plastic putty. It has a habit of just drying out just a little bit when you're trying to use it, and definitely when you want it, as always with these things. So what we're going to do, just going to grab a tiny little bit of a smidgen, not much, just in a cup, just like that. Obviously we're going to hardly need any. Okay, I'll just clean off my tweezers, they don't get loaded full of filler. Okay, and then what we're going to do, tiny bit of water, and when we say tiny bit, we are literally talking tiny. Okay, so we're going to use an oldest brush just down in here, and so we don't over flood it, just taking a little bit of water and just going to add it into this. This is to just literally make this softer, wetter and easier to use. So it's literally just the tiniest amount of water just into this, because this is water soluble, so it will just enable us to make up a small paste, very small, just like this. Careful how we're handling it. And then all we're going to do is a tiny bit of filler work just down in here, just on here like this, tiny bit just round in here, a little bit just under here, and then great thing with this stuff, we've used it lots of times before, we will let this just dry just a fraction and then we'll wipe it away, which we'll show you when we come to that one in a moment as well. Okay, so you can do that one just down in there. The other one we just want to take care of just a little bit is a tiny bit up here, and this is that slight sink mark that we've been getting. Okay, and it's important to let that dry and level down and do its bit all in there just like that. Okay, this will take literally about 10 minutes to dry. It's the great thing with this one, and of course it's water soluble, so you can clean your brush, just literally pop it down in there like that, clean your brush up, and then you are literally good to go. And I say it's the reason I quite like using theirs. It can be a bit of a pain, it clogs up your sanding sticks and all your things, but it is an easy cleanup, because as soon as it starts to dry, a damp cotton bud which will get ready for it. Just wet it, it will then rehydrate the actual filler, wipes it away, no damage to anywhere else on your model, okay? But it is a filler, it will shrink back. So don't think this is a miracle cure and one and done. Again, it might take a few attempts just to get rid of that one. So what we can do is obviously get that done. We can paint these other areas black, spray those areas again, re-black, and we'll all be good. At the same time, we spoke about before, we've done the rocket pod. That is ready, all ready to go now. We've done the guns as well. Let's grab the guns. So we've actually got 2 of the 7.62s, and then obviously we've got this big Gal BMG 50 as well. They're ready to be fitted on there. So really we're just into that thing. Once that's been painted, a little bit of gloss work just to help the decals go down, get the decals on, and then we can think about a flat coat right the way over it. Then we're talking washes, hand painting, some chipping work, a little bit more bleaching, getting it all fitted up and really pushed on. Okay, so this has been dry now for the last good couple of hours and totally gone off. And this is the secret to this. A lot of the time people come in, bit of water, they give it a rub and it all comes away and really you've just wasted your time. Now, as you can see on top, we've already done that bit, but fear not, I've got the other side to do. So this is just normal tap water. And we put a little puddle just down on the cutting mat, just down like this. And all we do is soak our cotton bud in it. Okay, absorb some of this up. Now I've got to be a little bit mindful because I've got aerials all over this. So this is what you'd normally have. And normally you'd come in with a sander, but let me just show you something. You just put this stuff on top, okay, and wipe it over the entire area and then just keep rubbing. And as you can start to see, it all comes away, leaving you with just the areas. Now obviously you want to go 90 degrees to the problem area. And as you said before, you do get shrinkage. Don't think this is some magic bullet and all the rest of it. But from our point of view, because we're going to be having certainly a panel line left over, we can go right the way over it. So you can soak it a little bit, let it start to work, and then you just keep rubbing. Okay, now the great thing with this is you don't make any damage and you're not sanding any details. You are literally just rubbing. Okay. And there we go. We're starting to go over. A little bit thick here, to be honest, on this section, so we'll just keep wiping at it. My cotton bud is just about to fall apart on me, so hopefully it's enough just to do this bit. There we go, and as you can see, because it's just dissolving the higher, and it leaves you with the lower part literally just like that. So we'll just come in here, rub, alright. And we just do the other end, and all we're going to do is this cross section just here. So again, we're just going to come across ways. Okay. And then that way we can fill up. Now this is great for this type of work. If you've got something with a million rivets on it and you don't want to destroy all that lovely riveting work you've done, this is easily the best way to do it, and it's certainly the cleanest. But I think the biggest mistake people make when they see me do this is that they think, oh, you have to do it when it's wet. No, you let it dry. And there we go. Give it a wipe with your finger, and that's it. Filled, job, no mess, no drama. Turn it on the top as well, and you're all good to go. So what you want to do now is leave that for around about 10 minutes, just to let the area, because obviously the top part in the groove is going to be really soft now. So you want it to dry, reharden, bing bang bosh, coat of paint over the top, it's job done. Easily the simplest way to do any type of filling work. But I say again, it's not a magic bullet. This isn't the Goldilocks thing of all of this one, where suddenly we found a filler which has zero shrinkage and all the rest of it, because it will shrink. But if you're doing it in a panel line system, it's a good way of filling that panel line. And then certainly if you just want to sharpen it up, once that's totally dry, you can just pop in there with your favorite scribing tool and just pop a new panel line, and you're good to go, and away you go, you're quite happy. You can of course keep backfilling it and all the way up, but just remember you rehydrated it, it's softened it. As it dries, it's going to shrink back. But certain areas, certainly like this, I think you can get away with it. So if you ever wanted an easy clean up filler that doesn't mean you have to come in there with your sanding stick and obliterate all the detail around it, this is actually a really good and simple way of doing that type of work. So anyway, let that dry, give it half an hour, get this all painted black. So to be honest, with all these aerials and things on this one, I am literally just going to use Tamiya XF1 flat black. Going to use it for a little bit of post shading as we make our way around it, just random. There's not going to be any right or reason to it. And then once that's done, we can take a step back, have a look. If we're happy with it, we can think about a decal in it. To be honest, there's only a handful of decals on this one. We've got the sheet here, so we've got a couple of United States ones, and obviously we've got some markings and a couple on the front. I will probably end up putting them down neat onto this. It's quite a smooth paint finish. I'm quite happy the way it is, but what you could do just to help things down is just pop along with something like a skinny polisher. Just do the area where that decal's going to go, clean it off with water before you come in to get rid of the sanding dust, pop the decal onto it, and then you can just seal it down afterwards, your favourite setting solution, and you'll be good to go. But we'll have a look at that bit when we get to it. So anyway, let's get this in the paint bay. Okay, so we have one black looking bird, and as you can see, now we've painted in, just being very careful while I grab this, you can see now under here, problem has gone, mysteriously gone, and the top looking good. Again, that's it, simple as that, no problems at all. As you can see, we started on the decaling, doing exactly what we were saying. So, to be honest with you, we're using water, so good old-fashioned tap water. We have pre-polished these areas, okay, so literally we're just giving it a bit of a wipe. You probably see it looks very smooth. So that is just literally, you come along with your sander, okay, lightly buff the area, just like that, okay. So that takes off all the height imperfections, stuff like that, and it makes it nice and smooth for your decaling. So then you can just come along with your decal. So pre-wet the area, so it's got something slippy, okay, and to help it conform, then we're just going to take our marking here. So to be honest, we have a United States Army. Okay, it is a bit tricky, and then obviously lining this guy up as in you would do any other decal, just push, pull, slip, slide into position. Okay, something like there. Then you take your cotton bud and then rolling out the water, or most of it, so we're just trying to get it out, and then we can just reposition for the final position. Happy it's in the right location, and just come back again. Okay, in there like that, and then to be honest, X20A, which is Tamiya thinners, a little bit just in there, and then over the top. Now just being careful because we have got Tamiya paint on this as well, so you just want to be a little bit mindful not to rub it too much, otherwise what's going to happen is it's just going to wear off. Okay, and then we have it on there like that, and then you should end up with them on there. So you see we've got the ones on the tail, we've got some of these on the front. Get the camera to lock in, going to play ball, sort of. Doesn't like it very much. There we go, that's in there. To be honest, there's a Harley Davidson one behind it, but it's very, very hard to see it. But on this side, you can see this one is on there with the tail number, generally looking very much the part. So what I'm going to do, just put on, we've got two more decals, just going to go in the top of the engine covers on there, get those put in there, and then we've obviously got a little few, just these slime line ones, which are the night markings, just going to go on. There's a few little places those are going to go on. We get those fitted, get those onto it, have a look, check for silvering. If there's no silvering, then obviously we can deal with it. If you've got a little bit of silvering, what we'll probably end up doing is just using a riveting wheel like this, Rosie to the riveter, give it a rub over, another coat of X20A Tamiya acrylic thinners right over it. That'll just help it absorb down and go in. And to be honest, we've done exactly the same on the rocket pod here, which is looking very much the part as well. Very little silvering, it's just a few little spots in there we need to take care of. So we get that, make sure they're hunkered down. Once those are in, what we're probably going to do is just do a flat coat right the way over it. Then we're going to come in, polish it up in a few areas, just make it look a little bit more sort of shiny, dull, all those things in there, and we can think about getting a wash onto it.